The Blaze's Matt Walsh rents a place in Virginia just to be able to blast Loudon School Board in person. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting kids of classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today's show is sponsored by Mike Lindell and our friends at MyPillow. MyPillow always offering great deals, and this week they're offering their 6-piece towel set for just 40 big ones, 40 smackers. All you have to do is use the code Dr. Duke, D-R-D-U-K-E. Visit MyPillow.com, and you will get up to 66% on all their other goodies. Just use the Dr. Duke access code. All right, today we start in Virginia, the epicenter of crazy school board country, where Loudon County, how many times, if we did a drinking, take a shot every time you mention the word Loudon County, we'd be all loopy. They have just attempted to stop conservative commentator Matt Walsh from speaking at their latest meeting by changing the rules. But that didn't stop Matt, even before we look at this. So Matt obviously doesn't live in Virginia. Before you're allowed to speak at a stupid public school board meeting, you have to have a valid Virginia driver's license indicating Loudon County residency, or a utility bill from 2021 with the resident's name and Loudon County address, a mortgage or rental lease agreement displaying the resident's name and current street, a current employee ID or student ID, an email or letter from Loudon County Public Schools to the parent of you have enrolled, and finally a student report card or progress card. If they made voting for president this secure, Donald Trump would be in his second term right now.
Well, and if you took a look at, Matt had put up a Facebook story of someone taping him going through this process, you would think that they were going in, not even a voting booth, that they were trying to get on an airplane, like TSA basically was there, because he had to walk under the tent with the people at the table. He had to have his proof, which he had his rental agreement, his lease agreement, because he paid a whole $1 to lease a place, a basement in someone's basically house, so that he is a resident. Congratulations,
so
Matt Walsh.
So he found a supporter, leased their basement for $1.
$1.
Right.
He said he has yet to see it, but he had it in hand, and he had to go through that process, and they had to check it and make sure, and then he had to get in line. He had to get in line outside to stand there to wait to speak for a school board meeting. But it's Loudon County, Virginia, so we know exactly what they're trying to do is keep every parent out.
I would thank you all for allowing me to speak to you tonight, but you tried not to allow it, yet here I am. Now, you only give us 60 seconds, so let me get to the point. You are all child abusers. You prey upon impressionable children and indoctrinate them into your insane ideological cult, a cult which holds many fanatical views, but none so deranged as the idea that boys are girls and girls are boys. By imposing this vile nonsense on students to the point even of forcing young girls to share locker rooms with boys, you deprive these kids of safety and privacy and something more fundamental too, which is truth. If education is not grounded in truth, then it is worthless. Worse, it is poison. You are poison. You are predators. I can see why you try to stop us from speaking. You know that your ideas are indefensible. You silence the opposing side because you have no argument. You can only hide under your beds like pathetic little gutless cowards hoping we shut up and go away. But we won't. I promise you that. Thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you again very, very soon.
Clock it in. Yep. They only get 1 minute. And you can tell that obviously Loudon County doesn't want to have anyone speak, because you didn't see people in the audience there because they're not allowed to sit in the audience. As you heard from Matt, you only get the 60 seconds, and he had to talk really fast, and he can't get all the points he wants across because it takes a lot to talk in 60 seconds. And for him to be able to stand up there in front of the entire school board and be able to get all his points across, I think he did a pretty good job.
He talks almost as fast as I do. And let's not forget that Matt Walsh endorsed FreedomProject. He's a big fan of ours. So shout out to Matt. And later in the week, we're going to see how ridiculous this is. Now you have another Virginia school board who's actually inviting the Biden administration to send federal troops, federal agents, to defend school boards from hostile mom terrorists. That's where this country's heading.
Isn't it lovely? Well, after Matt went on to speak, I guess, for his whole 60 seconds there at the school board meeting, then he decided to speak, at least via telephone, with Glenn Beck. Let's take a look at what he said to Glenn.
lining up to go speak. This is supposed to be a public school board meeting for the public, and you hear the word public and you think, well, the public can come and just have their voices heard and at least sit in the room and listen to what's being said. But they keep everybody outside. No one's allowed to go inside the building. They even keep most of the media outside. They let a few cameras in, and they make everyone line up outside. You got to provide your proof of residency, show your ID, and they got to take everything out of your pockets. They do like a TSA-style screening. So this is already, I mean, if they did this outside of a voting booth, of course, we would be hearing the cries of racism, the kingdom come. But it's, so to speak at a public school board meeting it has to be more secure than voting in a state. And then and they make you wear the mask. And if my voice sounded muffled there, it's because they make you wear the mask. And you line up on it. They give you these little dots you line up on. And you wait for your turn to go before the Royal Highnesses on the school board. And they give you exactly 60 seconds. And at 60 seconds, they cut the mic, and that's all you have. And the irony is that before I came, they accused me of being an outside agitator. And they said, well, we don't want him and outside agitators because we just want to hear from the parents. We want to hear community members. Oh, you want to hear from community members and parents? That's why you give them 60 seconds and you cut the mic? It is. I can tell you, I speak for a living. It's very difficult to say anything worthwhile in 60 seconds.
And it really is amazing that this one little thing that they have to do, and keep in mind that the school board members, and this is all across the country, not just in Virginia, they are under no obligation to speak. They don't have to speak back. They don't even have to necessarily listen. They could sit there on their phones. They could sit there writing or scrolling across the internet. There's no guarantee that they have to listen to any of this. They certainly don't have to respond to it. So this is what you call the absolute base minimum that the public schools are willing to do for the parents because they quote unquote have to. And now they're looking for every reason, including calling federal agents, to protect them from these evil moms and dads who actually presume that they have a say in their public school kids' education. Mom and dad, when you think about what Matt Walsh just had to go through simply to talk for 60 seconds, this tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it, about the public schools? They are not into you. They don't care what you think. If this doesn't make you want to walk away, I would respectfully ask you, what kind of inferiority complex do you have? What kind of left-wing Stockholm syndrome do you suffer from? That you would allow them to do this and to your kids, and your only response is to keep sending them. At this point, it becomes a matter of what therapist can we send you to get you over this insecurity complex and put your kids in a real school.
Before we move on, just a reminder that if you enjoy our content, please consider joining the Patriot Club. Your tax-deductible donation literally keeps this show going. Simply visit patriotclub.us to get signed up. That's patriotclub.us. And as a special thank you, we will ship you our brand new American Patriot tumbler, etched with the muscular likeness of Mr. George Washington. So, we're not going to leave Virginia. We're going to stay in Virginia. We're just going to go one county over to Fairfax, Virginia. Because if it isn't Loudon County, it's Fairfax County. And again, in Fairfax schools, instead of, teaching and doing all this for your children, educating them, they're just going to sue you, the parents, when they get their tail caught between their legs to try and, I guess, skirt around
some progressive jujitsu.
They're trying to get away with it. But we got to back up and understand first that Virginia's former governor, who's trying to again become governor, he's a gubernatorial candidate right now. His name is Terry McAuliffe. He just recently said that parents, you mom and dad, should have no role in educating the direction of what your education for your children is. No, you know what? Just let him say it.
And I'm not going to let parents come into schools and actually take books out and make their own decision.
You vetoed it.
So, I stopped the bill that I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach.
Okay, so now how all this plays in is because Terry is part of this story. He said that, and again, I'll direct quote, "I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach." He said this statement just hours after him and Fairfax County Public Schools filed a lawsuit against parents after a story was published that was basically just unflattering to them. So who is involved is a mom of a special ed parent who had relayed records that the school system had provided to her under the public records laws. And as it turned out, they gave her some information that, makes them look bad. So they also sued another mother of a special needs student who actually runs a blog, and she also posted information. So this information was disseminated, and now they're trying to get it all back. And so they're going to sue these moms.
So moms do open record requests because there's nothing else they can do. And finally, the idiots in Virginia couldn't redact. Usually they redact everything, right? Anything that's remotely dangerous or useful, they black it out, they redact it. Here, they couldn't even handle, I'm thinking of Dwight Schrute, redact it. Redact it right now. They can't even get the redaction process ironed out. And so what happens is sensitive information that makes the, lo and behold, McAuliffe and his public school board idiots look bad, and now they're suing to get it back. And he has the gall, the temerity to stand up there. And again, we know who McAuliffe is. He's a longtime Clinton and Obama administration hack. He's a former governor of Virginia who wants to run again. And you have an interesting story about it. Give us the history of that state. Virginia's a unique state in what regard?
You are not allowed to serve term after term. It's like you get to serve and then go bye-bye, and then you can come back again.
So
but
one
you can't
term.
go consecutive terms.
Yeah, and one term at a time. So I wondered about that because McAuliffe was the governor, and then we had Northam, right? And it didn't stop to think much about that. You had a Democrat replace a Democrat. I just assumed he was term limited or something. No, turns out that he could only run once, and Northam could only run once. So now we can have McCollum, Northam, the Obama hack who doesn't want parents to have any say in education, and the fun guy who wears blackface all the time. That's what you got to deal with in Virginia.
Well, that's just fun in Virginia. Well, back to what happened with this specific case and what was revealed. The documents are actually billing records. So, we're finding out what's being billed and to who. It shows that Fairfax County Public Schools paid Hunton Andrews Kurth, which is a law firm that hired the now gubernatorial candidate McAuliffe. So that's how he comes in, as being a top advisor. And it was to do much of what parents say is the school system's dirty work. Of course, yeah, you get a law firm, they're going to come in, take a look, and make sure you're protected. You're going to pay them all this money. And by you, I mean the taxpayers pay them, not knowing that they're paying them. So some of this work included seeking to dismiss a class action lawsuit filed by special ed parents who alleged that their children were systematically physically abused by the educators. And that's where these special ed parents come in. See how this works? Now, the school system said it mistakenly released the records and claimed they contain information that could violate federal law. So they're going to just kick it up and be like, it's federal law. We can't, so it's not. We wanted to give it to you, but we can't.
Then you should go to school, go to jail for giving it away, right?
Yeah.
Quit suing the mom and sue yourself.
And what's ironic about this is that one of the services that Hunton Andrews Kurth was providing to the school district was reviewing these FOIAs, the Freedom of Information Acts. And it was their own billing records that accidentally got released. So the people you hired then to do their dirty work, to cover the FOIAs, to make it so you're protected, just completely spilled the beans.
Well, and let's not lose sight of the main point of the story, which is you have the presumptive next governor of Virginia, a guy who was already on the Democrat side, who's already a governor of Virginia, who basically says now that parents don't have really any right to say what's going to happen in their schools. And then, as I say always when this comes up, Mr. McAuliffe, then you refund all the current public school families their money, all that real estate property taxes, all the lottery money, you give it right back to mom and dad. Because if you're going to tell them there's no place for you, it's like the 1940s, Irish not wanted. Here we are, 2021, no parents need apply. So if you're going to have that attitude about the moms and dads, why not just get rid of it? I mean, just tell moms and dads that we don't want you here. We're not going to. You have to apply to attend our public schools. You have to have the right profile. And maybe we'll let you in anyway. We all know that the money that drives public schools, they would never do that. But at least they'd be honest if they did.
So everyone's aware, there were 1,300 pages of billing records that were released, and some of the things it revealed was that Hunton was charging $700 an hour. So just know that's what's happening with your money, mom and dad. And just a quick update here with what's happening with the lawsuit towards the mother who had the blog. She said that numerous times since 2017, the school district has violated her family's privacy. She said about a dozen times. They've provided me personally identifiable information about over 1,000 students, parents, and family members, and all this other information. So this isn't the first time this is happening, but now that she's getting sued for what they gave her, let's fight back.
And I'm still waiting for the first time this year, going all the way back to January, where any story we've ever done had anything to do with actual schooling.
Being fair in grading will now lead you to have to sue your employer because they will suspend you for being fair in grading. All right, that's where we're at. So you're a racist, again, of course, if you are fair in your grading. And that's what happened to Gordon Klein, who is an accounting professor, who has been there not forever, but for a very long time. And he was suspended from UCLA's Anderson School of Management for simply refusing to grade black students more leniently immediately following the George Floyd incident. And now he has filed a lawsuit back against them. So we had discussed this back when it happened, but now the lawsuit is here. So let's recap. After Floyd had died, Klein had received a letter from a non-black student. So let's just say a white student. More presumptuous than that, more likely. So a non-black student asked that he provide more leniency in grading the work of the black students. As the email had said, the unjust murders, they led to fear and anxiety, and it was compounded by the disproportionate effect of COVID-19 on the black community. As we approach finals week, because this was toward the end of the semester, we recognize that these conditions will place black students at an unfair academic disadvantage due to traumatic circumstances out of their control. And we implore you to mandate that our final exam is structured as no harm, where they will only benefit the students' grades if taken. In addition, we urgently request shortened exams and extended deadlines for final assignments and projects. If this isn't just an attempt to not have to do any work, I don't know what is.
By a white, this is Ferris Bueller, right?
This
Ferris
is by
Bueller.
non-black.
This is Ferris Bueller gaming the system.
Well, Ferris Bueller though was
Bueller.
Nowhere.
It's got to be a fraternity prank.
It wasn't though. At the time we talked about it,
nope,
and it was not. The letter then asked Klein to give higher grades to the black students in a course graded on that was graded on a curve. So, it's on a curve anyway, so then you can kind of get away, give it to the black students, give them the higher grades. And that would have required him to then obviously lower the grades of all the other students, because if it's curve, that's how it works. So Klein had responded at the time, thank you for your suggestion in your email below, that I give black students special treatment given the tragedy in Minnesota. Do you know the names of the classmates that are black? How can I identify them since we've been having online classes only? Because this is the time of COVID.
Sounds like a
They're
good
all
point.
online. Are there any students of mixed parentage, such as half black, half Asian? What do you suggest I do with respect to them? A full concession or just half? Also, do you have any idea if any students are from Minneapolis? I assume that they probably are especially devastated as well. I'm thinking that a white student from there might possibly be even more devastated by this, especially because some might think that they're racist even if they're not. My TA, that's teaching assistant, it's from Minneapolis. So if you don't know, I can probably ask her. Can you guide me on how I should achieve a no harm outcome since our sole course grade is from a final exam only? One last thing strikes me. Remember that MLK famously said that people should not be evaluated based on the color of their skin. Do you think that your request would run afoul of MLK's I can't even talk anymore. Would run afoul of MLK's admonition?
Yep, it would. Now, the other thing about this is let's keep it real, in the words of Dave Chappelle. Keep it real. This is an accounting course. It's not some squishy black African-American lit course. It's not an English class. It's not some weird sociology class where you can make up your own statistics. This is accounting. There's one answer. You put the one answer in the box, and you're done. right? And so this is the only grade in the entire online semester, and some apparently white kid is telling a professor, you have to figure out, because you can't see them in person, they're all at home. They don't have one of these magic lenses where you watch them and they watch you. They watch you on recording. So how's he supposed to know? And how about this? The minute he sends an email out to the entire class saying, if you're black, let me know immediately so I could give you better grades. Can you imagine what would have happened then if you had done that to the inside? So there was a little bit of sarcasm, certainly, in the way he responded to this student, but what ended up happening?
So basically, at the time, again, this is still not even the whole story. At the time, the student had responded back saying like, oh yeah, I'm sorry that I sent that. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, the student kind of realized. However, that's not good enough. Klein was then suspended. And so he was suspended and put on mandatory leave on June 3rd. On July 22nd, then, he was exonerated of any wrongdoing by the school's discrimination prevention office, and then he returned to the classroom. And now he sued, saying that there were significant damages done to his reputation and everything else. He's been with the university since 1981. So as I said, he's been there a while. Not forever, but a while.
40 years.
It's a while, right? And he says he had severe emotional distress, trauma, and physical ailments for which he has been treated by his primary care physician, a gastrointestinal. Well, that's nice of him to give us details as to what's going on with him. But he had actually planned to leave the university so then he could retire somewhere else. But now it's like he doesn't even know if he can get anywhere else. So as he said in an email, and he spoke with College Fix about this, he said there are many ways to assist the advancement of underrepresented groups in achieving their dreams through university education. However, giving students grades that they did not earn or giving some identity groups preferential treatment over others is divisive and inconsistent with the core principles of the university. Yes. Thank you for speaking out, but he's in accounting, so he uses logic, so I should have expected that.
It is outrageous that the university's response was to immediately assume that he had done something horrible and to remove him from his office and to not let him be on campus. I'm sure they paid him during that time, but still, nevertheless, that's some bold cotton right there. I tell you what, I've been through these things myself. And the fact that they can pull these games, that they have that alone, right? This is why he needs to sue, and hopefully he'll win, because this will hopefully make the university think twice about siding with ridiculous student outrage over what is right and verifiably true at a university. Hopefully, I'm not optimistic though, because I've been involved with universities all over the place, and they never learn their lesson. They never learn from their mistakes. They would rather engage in high-level, politically correct CYA than to play according to the law. And then they'll let their donors and all that tuition money they're getting and state funding, they'll pay off the lawyers that way. Time now for some real education. This week we're doing The Course of Empire by Thomas Cole. Thomas Cole was born in 1801. He died in 1848. He created this 5-painting series, which is perfect for our week. 5 paintings, 1 a day. It's called The Course of Empire. And what it does is it examines what actually happens when a nation decides to become an empire and how destructive that is. Again, these were painted between 1833 and 1836, fairly early in our republic, but even then there were concerns in America that America was moving away from its constitutional obligations to have a small federal government. It was already expanding in unfortunate ways, and it was getting involved in overseas matters very much like an empire would become. So here we are today in 2021, and it's very apt to ask the question, is the American empire over? When did we stop becoming a republic, stop becoming a democracy, and then become an empire? In many ways, we are. We have way to this world power, this global power that we have become, does seem to have wandered significantly from our founding principles to the detriment of the country and of the future of the country. But as early as 1836, Thomas Cole, the American painter, was working and worrying about this. So again, he created a 5-series set of paintings about this. It's called The Course of Empire, what happens when an empire runs its course. And the very first one is called The Course of Empire, the Savage State. Now, this is an idea painting from Cole. This is the first one. It's called The Savage State. It shows the valley From the shore opposite the crag, in the dim light of a dawning stormy day, clouds and mist shroud much of the distant landscape, hinting at an uncertain future. A hunter clad in skins hastens through the wilderness, pursuing a fleeing deer. Canoes paddle up the river. On the far shore can be seen a clearing with a cluster of teepees around a fire, the nucleus of the city that is to be. The visual references are those of Native American life. The painting depicts the ideal state of the natural world. It is a healthy world, unchanged by humanity. This is the artist Thomas Cole, suggesting that maybe instead of all these foreign entanglements and having a global presence and all of this wandering away from a simple government set up by and for the people, maybe the pre-American Native American civilizations in this rural paradise, maybe they had a better idea. Mind your own business, worry only about your tribe, enjoy the beauties and the gifts of the land. Maybe this is a hearkening back to a time before America became so big and so relentless on the world stage that something major was lost. This is the first of one of 5 paintings that's going to show how we went from this almost paradisiacal, pastoral image of purity and beauty to what we ended up today. We'll take a look at that over the week.
All right, before we go, let's show some love to our Patriot Club members. And today, we're giving a shout out to Jared from Trophy Club, Texas. Jared, thank you for supporting us.
And that's our show for Freedom Project. I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends.